hence my Twitter name, @McDreamy. Nothing to do with the Grey's Anatomy character, I assure you. Hopefully slightly snappy title, In Pod We Trust. I'm just going to talk to you about some podcasts that I've made over the last year or so. And to start off with, I'm going to hopefully be able to play you a video which I think sets the scene nicely. Incredibly, this is now 12 years old, this video, which makes me feel very old indeed. So I played that for two reasons. Number one, because I know Frank Coffey, my boss, loves Bono. He doesn't. And two, it was around the time this advert came out that iTunes changed their platform to include podcasts. And like Tim talked about this morning, the podcast age came about. And myself, 12 years younger, got mad keen into Apple products and mad keen into podcasts, listening to podcasts. As this picture, hopefully shows. What's that one? I'll press the wrong button. As this picture here hopefully shows, this is me in third year of med school with not just an iPod mini in my mouth, there's also an iPod Classic there in the background, which is sadly dying. So what's a podcast? A podcast is a noun. It is an audio MP3 file that you can subscribe to and download to and listen to on your smart device. Most people use Apple, some people use Android for some reason. It's also a verb, so to podcast, to record a podcast and to put it out there. Okay. So, as I said, interested in podcasts, listening to them a lot for my education purposes and also for pleasure. I went and had a chat to Nick, as we often do, and we got an idea. Nick thankfully put me in touch with Yasmin and James Ellison over at the med school about setting up some podcasts for our students. And they gave me the go-ahead. So I went out and got some recording equipment. This is my laptop. I just bought some mics with USB connection. Put them in. You can get specific programs, but I just use the GarageBand software that you get with the laptop. And away we went. And my idea was to do about 30-minute programs based on one particular topic, say acute coronary syndrome, where it's me and a consultant or a registrar or a fellow teaching fellow talking about that subject. What are the key questions you need to ask? What are the key investigations? What's the management plan going to be for that patient? And I think in A&E that's a great opportunity because unlike a lot of people in here, I'm not a specialist, I'm very much a generalist. I see everything every day and I think that puts me in a good position to do that. We branched out a little bit more, so not just in A&E, our paediatric colleagues from next door came in as well, and luckily, Charlie came in as well, did an awful lot with me, and Anna Richmond from Obs and Gynae came as well, which was great for me because I've forgotten a lot of it. I remembered it all from 14. Yeah. So then I started recording them, and then it was time to think of a name, and I like a pun, I like something to be a little bit medically themed. So I came up with Take Orally. Always going to make sure that I tell my students to spell it properly, so I'm Googling it for obvious reasons. Set up a Twitter page for it, set up a Facebook page for it as well. Started recording a few of those, and there was a case about getting them out there. So bottom down here is SoundCloud, which is a website a lot of you are familiar with. Just created a profile, put them up on there. I then wrote a very nice email to iTunes saying, please, this is my SoundCloud stuff, have a listen to it, what do you think? They listened to it, they made sure I wasn't being racist or anything like that, and they said, yeah, that's fine. And they put it up there as well. So now if you look on SoundCloud or on iTunes, type in Take Orally, it's there. You can listen to individual episodes, or you can click subscribe and you get it, and it's nice and free, completely free. Put the word out to med students through emails. Unfortunately, I think a lot of our students do get email fatigue, and I think a lot of it did get lost, but then luckily, working down in A&E, we get a constant stream of med students, third years, fourth years, fifth years, so it's a case just constantly repeating that there is this podcast that gradually builds and builds and builds. And I also now get messages from people in Canada and Australia who listen as well, so that's quite nice. As of this morning, there are 55 podcasts, including a few that I recorded in Germany last week when I was at a conference, because I got the mobile mic thing. And they've been listened over 9,500 times on SoundCloud. I haven't got the iTunes data yet. Furthering backing up that, the great thing about using social media is, so you can get a notification, like down here when I did an Upper GI Delete podcast with Charlie. You can then back that up with, so here's Glasgow Blatchford School, here's Rockwell School that we talked about in the podcast. We can say they'll be there on social media, and there they go. And this is a bit like what Tim talked about this morning. It's FOMED, free open access to medical education. No firewall, no paywall. This is open for everybody. So another great advantage of this is the concept of M-learning or mobile learning. This is my iPod. That's my Grey's Anatomy that was bought for me when I got into medical school. So you can see the sheer convenience of having all that knowledge on that handheld device. Another great thing about mobile learning is you can be this med student here who's in the gym, not doing anything remotely educational, and then he's having a listen on his podcast, and there's me talking to our sepsis lead, Chris Goff, about sepsis in one of our podcasts. Another great thing is, this chap could be over in Lincoln, never actually been in QMC, never met me, never met Chris, but there we are, sort of sharing our knowledge, or Chris's knowledge. The other concept of the podcast back up is this idea of a flipped classroom, and there are some papers from some other medical universities who are building more and more into this idea. Basically, you have a podcast, you have some e-learning, you give it to your students beforehand, say, have a listen to this, and you get them to come in, potentially prepare a presentation on it, and say, this is now what we're going to talk about. And it allows you to cover the basics before you then go into that room, and you can talk about some more higher level topics as well. And it breaks away a bit from that more traditional didactic teaching. Cool, so then it was a case of me really having a chat to some med students to see what they actually thought about it. So I asked 19 medical students whether they thought it was a useful adjunct, just on a simple Likert scale. A bit like Tim talked about this morning, yes, it's a useful learning adjunct. Is it easy to use? Yes, it's easy to use. I think most of our students are pretty proficient with smart devices. Do they prefer it versus the traditional? So the more traditional learning in the classroom, a bit mixed there, it's a bit neutral than disagreed, so I'd say currently no. I then talked to them about the flipped classroom approach. What did they think of that? Again, not really buying it. I think they still prefer the traditional. Did they like hearing from specialists they wouldn't hear from otherwise? Yeah, obviously. And then would they recommend it? Yeah. Where do we go through from here? Just briefly. So since I've put in the abstract, I've created a website for it, takeorally.com. Again, please spell that properly. Which supports the podcast, supports the social media links, and then as well I can blog particular things as well to go along with it to support media. Again, all free. Cool. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to Nick and everybody supporting me making this. Thank you to Charlie and to Anna and everyone else who's taking part. Any questions?
Well, it's more just a comment really, because you said thank you to me, but I want to say thank you to you, because I feel like we've used it a lot in Obs and Gynae, and we use it a lot for our students. They've actually commented in our feedback how much they liked it, and I feel like I hijacked your platform, so I wanted to know. But that was great, so it was
Thank you for teaching me again about Obs and Gynae.
Just going back to points something made in one of the earlier talks, is there any peer review or review of this to check that all your facts are?
So
do you have references?
we reference everything as we go along. There is a disclaimer at the beginning that everything is correct for Nottingham University Hospitals, NHS Trust, other trust guidelines may vary, I don't remember off the top of my head. And that it is correct at time of recording. We research thoroughly beforehand, and in the cases like Anna and Charlie will know this, I say, what do you want to talk about? We agree the questions beforehand. We do research to make sure that it is up to date as possible. Following, say, when we talk about COPD, everything was the latest BTS guidelines that were there, and to make sure that what we're saying is true. That is a problem with FOMED, a bit like with fake news and everything. Anyone can put anything out there, but I try and make sure that we don't. It's correct.
Just one quick one, and then we'll
Yeah. So I love podcasts. I've listened to yours. I look like the guy in the gym without looking like him. But listening to that sort of stuff. You just said about making sure it's all correct, but also with being up to date, 'cause obviously unlike a digital resource that's picture or something, you can change it. Are you going to be re-recording them?
So yeah, so just like with Chris there, Chris Goff, our sepsis lead, he and I did a podcast about 6 months ago about sepsis, and then the new NICE guidelines came out, like red sepsis and things like that, so we did another one, and we mentioned that again, so you know, this is the new updated one, this, you know, supplants the previous one, no more sirs or anything like that.
So I'd like to congratulate you on getting that photograph of me in the gym. Remarkable, really remarkable. I've enjoyed this digital photo.
Your visit, Chris.
Yeah, so thank you very much. We'll move on to